Okay, let's dive right into this. Have you ever stepped into a place and literally felt the whole atmosphere around you shift? Like the temperature suddenly drops, the chaotic city noise just completely vanishes, and suddenly you feel like you've crossed over into another realm entirely? Well, welcome to this explainer on Agrasen Ki Baoli. It's one of Delhi's most mysterious, visually striking, and honestly intensely talked about historical sites. Today, we're focusing on the haunting architecture of this structure. It's famous not just for its ancient, dramatic plunging stairs, but for the genuinely chilling folklore that surrounds it. We're going to break down exactly how human engineering can completely accidentally create the perfect setting for a ghost story. So let's pose the big, compelling question right up front. Why exactly does Agrasen Ki Baoli feel haunted? If you ask the locals or dig into the urban legends of New Delhi, you'll hear some fascinating and, pretty terrifying stories. The folklore claims that visitors who walk down into this ancient structure often experience a sudden, strange unease. People report feeling an inexplicable nervousness, this heavy atmosphere pressing down on them, and, most chilling of all, a bizarre sensation of being physically or mentally drawn in by the environment itself. It's almost as if the shadows at the bottom of the stairs are actively pulling you deeper into the earth. It's a gripping narrative for sure, and it's a huge part of why so many folks are drawn to the site today. But what's actually going on here? To find the truth, we need to look past those stories. Section 1. The architecture of Agrasen. More than just a myth. We're going to intentionally strip away the modern ghost stories and sensational rumors for a second to uncover a physical reality that stood for centuries. We're starting our own descent, if you will, into the depths of a masterful architectural creation, looking at the stone and mortar rather than the myths. Because before we talk about the supernatural, we absolutely have to understand what this structure was actually built for. A baoli, which translates to stepwell in English, is an ancient, deep well or reservoir accessed by a descending set of stone steps, functioning as a vital water source. Grounding this in historical reality kind of changes the whole perspective, doesn't it? This wasn't built as a haunted cavern or some dark underground dungeon. No, it was a deeply practical, life-sustaining piece of civic infrastructure. In regions where water tables fluctuated drastically between intense monsoon downpours and bone-dry seasons, a stepwell allowed people to reach the precious water no matter how low the level got. You simply walk down the steps. Which brings us to Section 2, Ancient Water Conservation, an oasis for travelers. We have to completely shift our perspective here from a spooky descent into darkness to a brilliant, life-saving descent into cool, refreshing water. We're looking at an absolute masterpiece of ancient engineering that served a highly specific environmental purpose. Built centuries ago, this structure was specifically designed to manage and conserve water in a really challenging climate. It features massive, grand stone steps, over 100 of them, in a long, plunging corridor, reaching deep down into the earth. For the locals, this served as a highly dependable, vital water source centuries before anything like modern plumbing. But perhaps even more importantly, the baoli acted as an essential, cool oasis for ancient travelers. Just imagine traveling under the scorching Indian sun. Descending into this stone structure would provide an immediate, drastic drop in temperature. The surrounding stone absorbed the heat, and the water sitting at the bottom literally cooled the air in the trench. It was an architectural marvel designed for survival, community gathering, and critical water conservation. So, where do the ghost stories come from? Section 3. The psychology of silence. The descent effect. If this was just a highly functional water conservation site, the haunting feeling people experience isn't the work of wandering spirits. Actually, scratch that, it's more like a masterclass in acoustics and spatial design. The architectural solutions used to reach the water inadvertently created a profound psychological trap. I want you to actively imagine the sensory experience of walking down into Agrasen Ki Baoli. First, leaving the city noise behind. As you walk down that massive stone staircase, the tall, thick walls on either side literally block out the chaotic, loud sounds of the outside world. Second, fading light as you descend. Because you're sinking deep into a narrow, enclosed trench, the bright sunlight is slowly choked off, leaving you surrounded by creeping shadows. And finally, entering an echoing silence. The architecture naturally mutes the outside world and creates a localized acoustic chamber right at the bottom. Your footsteps echo sharply off the stone. Even your own breathing sounds loud. This functional design triggers a form of mild sensory deprivation, which, you guessed it, naturally activates the imagination and creates an incredibly eerie, profound sense of isolation. This really brings us to the core revelation of our explainer. When we directly compare the folklore with the reality, a crystal clear picture emerges. The folklore claims ghosts draw people in, causing an unexplainable supernatural unease. But the reality? The reality is the psychological impact of deep structural design, intense isolation, fading light, and dramatic acoustics. Historians and experts all agree that there is zero scientific proof of supernatural occurrences here. None. The anxiety, the nervousness, or that feeling of being drawn in is a completely natural psychological reaction to descending into a dark, quiet, and closing space. The architecture is just so incredibly effective at changing your sensory environment that your brain misinterprets it as something otherworldly. Bringing ourselves back up the stairs to the surface, let's look at Section 4, a modern historical marvel, from water source to tourist hub. Today, Agrasen Ki Baoli draws history enthusiasts, photographers, and lovers of mystery from all over the globe. Now, it no longer stores water. The bottom of the well is completely dry now, but its striking architecture remains fully intact. It sits right in the heart of modern New Delhi, creating this absolutely incredible visual juxtaposition between the ancient silent Stepwell and the towering, noisy modern high-rises that completely surround it. It's become a wildly popular destination, a cultural hotspot where people come to experience the silence, admire those ancient water conservation techniques we talked about, and of course, enjoy the thrill of its mysterious atmosphere. To wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this evocative quote translated from our source material. Imagine hundreds of year-old stone stairs, descending darkness, echoing silence all around, and an atmosphere that gives people a sense of mystery. That right there is the true, lasting legacy of Agrasen Ki Baoli. It reminds us that sometimes the most hauntingly beautiful things aren't supernatural at all. They're the direct result of human ingenuity, ancient architectural brilliance, and the sheer power of physical spaces to shape our human psychology. So I'll leave you with this final thought. What historic spaces have you visited that completely changed how you felt just by walking through the door? And were they playing tricks on your mind too?